Hello, everybody. I'm Toby Schifsky. I am the Vice President of Real Estate Education at Kaplan and Dearborn Real Estate Education. Today, we are here for the Dearborn Partner Webinar, and our topic is finding and retaining quality instructors for your real estate classes. And the good news is I actually have a very special guest today who's been at Kaplan longer than I have, and who is my foremost expert on our student experience. And it's none other than Christina Chamberlain, who is our Director of Student Experience. She's been with Kaplan for over 26 years, and she is responsible for the entire instructor faculty at Kaplan. And so, Christina, thank you for being here.
Thank you for having me. I'm excited to be here and talk about our instructors. And talking about instructors always excites me. It's a great topic, and I'm happy to be here and to discuss some of the things that we look for when we are looking for talent.
Yeah, right on. Well, everybody should know, Christine and I both come from an era where live classroom was 75 to 85% of your business. And online was just this fresh thing that people are like, what do you mean you can read a book online? Yeah, that's basically what it was. It was a glorified PDF online, and that was an online course. And so we were very much centered around in-person live classroom. I mean, even in the early 2000s, as things started to run up, some of you I know have been in the business that long. It was crazy time, right, Christina? I mean,
It was a wild ride. It was unbelievable, is
it
what I
was.
would say.
So if everybody here who's been in the real estate business, if you can think about how it just was in 2020 and 2021, when the amount of people coming in started to rise up during COVID, when people had money in their pockets, they were out of jobs, they were looking for a new career. Think of that for 5 years straight. That's what we experienced in the early 2000s. And we were building classrooms as fast as possible, 100, 120, 140 person classrooms, and filling them. It was crazy. Then there was the crash, the mortgage crisis, and people had to kind of reinvent their businesses. And so online education came along, and even live online came along. And then during COVID, a huge push, Christina, into live online. I know at Kaplan, we changed our model for much of the country to live online, because that we had to meet the customer where they were. And so what happens is some things change and some things stay the same. And so looking for talent, and not only looking for talent, but acquiring the talent and then retaining the talent, there's some changes that have happened over the years. And I think that's what we're going to talk about today is, what are you looking for? Where do you find them? How do you get them? How do you retain them? And by the end of this 30 minutes, guys, it's going to go really fast, because Christina and I could talk about this for hours. But we're going to get her expertise, because, like I said, she works with a staff of well over 50 instructors nationwide. And I think you're going to really be and not only entertained, but I think you're going to gather some real insights. So let's do this, Christina. I'm going to jump in. I'm going to ask a poll question of everybody really first. So let's do this. Take a second, answer this poll question, because we want to know who's here to make sure we're kind of gearing the conversation towards who's here. And really what I want to know is, what's your primary role at your school? If you could, go ahead and answer this poll really quick on your screen. If you're on your phone, you might have to swipe your screen one and hit the poll question, but you should see the poll question up. Okay, good. We got everybody jumping in. I always share the results. The poll questions are always anonymous, Christina, so nobody sees who actually answered what, but I always share the results because I think it's
Great
and interesting. Yeah. All right, so I'm just
curious to see.
Yeah, I give it a couple more seconds here. 2, 1, 0. All right, let's look at this. The results, and here they come. 37% of you are owner operators. Woohoo!
Great.
We like owner operators. Just so you know, Dearborn, that's what we do. We work with owner operators all over the place. To clarify, look at that, Shaylin, right? I'm an education department at the local realtors association and just gathering knowledge. Look at that. So not even currently with the school. Awesome. We also help associations. We have dozens and dozens and dozens of associations as partners across the country with Dearborn for content and online courses through RE Campus. So owner operated 37%, administrator 37%, instructors 42%. Look at that. I love it. Nice. So instructors, we're going to talk about how we get more instructors. And some of you are probably managing instructors, and some of you are probably looking over your shoulder at new instructors, like, are they taking my job? And what we're going to find out too, a little bit as we go through this, Christina, is I think competition for jobs and instructors is actually somewhat important in retention and grooming of really good instructors too, I think.
Absolutely.
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 All right, so let's do this. I'm going to stop sharing and we're going to jump into this first one. And really what we wanted to do, everybody, was just going to set the stage for what are the different types of live education that people are doing right now. And this will give us a little bit of a historical perspective, I think, Christina, and then also
Absolutely.
how it's transitioning now. And then even to the point where some things are so old and some old things are coming back also. So current models. With this model, the in-person classroom traditional model, this is what, when we started, Christina, this was kind of it. This, what are you finding as the pros, the real positives to in-person education that you get, that your school experiences, that your management experiences, that your students experience? What do you think the pros are?
I think the pros are obviously you get FaceTime with your students, immediate interaction. That's always a positive. You get some of your best talent in live classes that command the space. Um, I come from live education, so that was always my baby, and I really enjoyed it. But we've seen a huge shift, and our students are asking for something different, so our model has to change. But the current model of live delivery is very popular. Still, it's traditional, but we've seen a shift, and we're efforting more towards listening to what our customers want and what they're looking for. And it's a different experience than what I started with and what I am accustomed to. But I've enjoyed the change and the transition from in-person to more of a live online delivery or distance education.
Right on. Well, traditional, I know we have a lot of partners on here who are doing in-person education again, right? So after the pandemic, back into the classroom, probably not doing it the same as you used to. But the biggest things for me that I saw was, completion rates. If this is about licensing education, there's a kind of this little social responsibility that happens with in-person education. And I always kind of use this example. So I'm sorry if I've used it before with this group, but I remember like the first day of licensing education when I went into licensing, you find your spot in your class and you sit down and that's your chair, and you kind of get to know the people around you. And then, you go on breaks and you come back and then you get to know a couple more people. And by the end of the day, that's kind of your spot because, man, when you show up the next day to live education, nobody better be sitting in your spot. That's your spot. It's like you've got this social structure
Right.
and this an awareness, and it helps people to get through the education. Going online asynchronous can be a long slog,
Right.
for a lot of people. So traditionally, we've seen 90% plus completion rates, successful completion rates in in-person education. I think it's one of the strongest pros that you can have, especially if you're talking to students and especially if you're talking to brokerages who are sending you their recruits. That's a big topic.
Absolutely.
So for some of you who've been in the business for a while, you're owner operators, are you finding, go ahead, put it in the chat if you're finding that your completion rates are higher with live education, in-person education for sure. Because we're going to talk about live online education next, and then even some in-person big event education that may be more centered around continuing education. But and then today, I think, what do you think about it being a differentiator in the marketplace, Christina? I mean, a lot of people went away from it, and some people are going back into in-person as a differentiator against the competition. I mean, are you seeing that with your competition?
Yes, we are seeing it. It is a differentiator,
Yeah,
and we do have a group of customers that do look for that in-person education. But one of the challenges I find with in-person education is when you're in a large geographic region, how do you stretch? How do
yeah,
you
yeah,
stretch and reach that
yeah.
geographic region? And the expense involved with, in-person education just continues to increase.
Agreed. Agreed. Yeah, the rents, everything about a fixed facility costs. Now, some people can offset that if you've got a relationship where you only pay as you use it, or you
Sure.
got about free access to an education spot, that can help eliminate a big chunk of that overhead for in-person education. All right, the other piece on that I would just touch on is loyalty. You know, somebody spends a week, 2 weeks, 3 weeks with one of your instructors in a classroom, start to bond a bond. There starts to be something that happens, especially and that loyalty can pass through when it comes to post-licensing and continuing education. It's a real trick.
Absolutely. They develop a rapport with their instructor,
Yeah.
and that helps build to brand loyalty, which is important.
Yeah, agreed. Well, brand loyalty. And I can tell you guys, so one of the things when we moved to live online, and we're going to talk about it a little bit, is how do you continue to try to build that loyalty with live online where the rapport is harder to build. And that social awareness, like I said, when I sat down in class and the next day I came and sat in my same spot, and Mary sat to this side and Billy sat that side, I felt like I was, in a great spot. How do you do that in live online? How do you get people to feel like they're a part of something that's happening bigger than just themselves, so they're comfortable with it and they feel responsible for being there? That's a trick. We could talk about that in a little bit. All right, so let's go on to the next model real quick. Current models of live delivery, in-person large event. I'm really interested on this one. We're going to ask a question in a little bit about what types of education you deliver. Once again, it's anonymous, but it would be really interesting here. And this in-person large event, I think we're talking about like hotel, like you're renting out a hotel, you're doing a big event. And I don't know why I don't think of licensing as a big event. Maybe it is. Maybe exam prep might be a big event, but continuing education for sure could be a big event. I'm just looking at if we're, what do you think the real success stories are with, once again, a large event in person, Christina?
Well, you have a captive audience, and you try to put your superstars in those large event captive audience to help promote your company and what you're delivering. But I think it's a different type of instructor in a large event delivery. And I know we're going to talk more about that, but I feel like large delivery in a large exam prep CE is a completely different
Oh, yeah.
skill set
Oh, yeah.
than a licensing instructor who's teaching in live online. I just think that there's major differences that I know we're going to go into, so I don't want to give away too much,
Yeah,
but
yeah, yeah. I'm hearing you. So in order to command a giant room, you have to have a giant
yeah,
instructor
yeah,
personality. That's a big difficulty. But if you got it, then you can find some big windfall revenues on big events. There's risk involved too, right? So, still, once again, you get a little bigger geographic reach, but it's not like, miles away or states away, 100 miles away or states away. It's usually, you can get people to drive an hour and a half, 2 hours, maybe three if it's really, really something. But and then there's a high expense, which with the high expense comes high risk. I've done a big event before where we had 250 people showing up. We had a blizzard that day and everybody canceled. And that crushed us. We still had to pay. So there are some risks there. All right, let's move on real quick. Live online. And let's hit this really quick because I think it's interesting. We're not finding the same completion rates as in person, but still higher than asynchronous education, for sure.
right,
Right?
absolutely.
Yeah. Not geographically limited. Convenience. Students don't have to drive anywhere. It's travel, simple, right? Low relative costs. You don't have to pay for room, although you do pay for service. You do pay for the streaming service. Cons, technical proficiency. I think we're going to talk a little bit about that, and instructors you're looking for now today. And then harder to connect with students. That loyalty piece. There's some, but it's not the same as in person, right? I mean, is that what we're
Yeah,
finding?
you have to approach it differently, I think, is really the key when in building loyalty in a live online environment. It's different than in person where you have that, constant back and forth with an instructor. Yeah, it takes different skill set, and you have to use different methods to build that loyalty.
Right on. All right, so let's do this. The next thing I have is a poll question for everybody. This is really kind of just to get a gauge of what types of live education you're doing right now. And so what I want to do is start the second poll question. So let's do this. Which type of delivery does your school offer? In-person classroom or in-person large event? And you can answer multiple here. If you're like doing all three, answer all three. I think you could do, yeah, multiple answers. If you're not doing it, I'm sorry, I didn't put an answer in there for you, but maybe you could just drop in the chat here and say, gosh, we're not doing live yet. And in fact, you say, we're not doing live yet, but call me because I need some help understanding how Dearborn sells books and ebooks and all that kind of stuff. As a matter of fact, if I could get somebody from Dearborn to drop in, the new Dearborn catalog is available for everybody. If you don't know what Dearborn catalog is, it's our Dearborn catalog. It's an annual publication, and it's really our catalog of all the courses, well, nearly all the courses available to you. Look at that. Kate Wagner just put it in the chat. You guys could click on that link, get a digital version, or click on the print version, and we'll ship one to you. It's a beautiful book. It is outstanding resource for educators, not only for books and ebooks, but also for online education that you deliver to your students through RE Campus. All right, so I'm going to go ahead, end the poll, and share the results. Look at that, 76% in person. I suppose it's the topic we're in, so very good. In-person large event, 12%. Guys got big risk, big reward. I like that. And then live online, 76% too. So combination wise, live online, live in person, still going strong. Still going strong. All right, let's go on. Here's the next thing. This is what everybody wants to know. Qualities or attributes, right? What are you looking for? You know, your big organization, Christina, you got dozens and dozens and dozens of instructors, dozens of states. What are you looking for in those qualities and attributes in those instructors?
Sure, we can just go kind of right down the list.
Yeah,
So obviously our expectation is that you're safe, sound, and dependable. We expect you to be reliable. We can count on you to show up on time. We know you're going to be in class and we're not going to have to worry that we're looking for you or looking for a sub. That's a minimum expectation that I think we all would expect from one of our instructors. Second is,
well, hang on. I just think about that. I think about what we used to say was safe, sound, and dependable. You all know if you're running a school, we got 37 37% owners and operators and instructors. When somebody's on the schedule to teach, you don't want to have to track them down the day of teaching, right? And you don't want them saying, oh, I got to switch out because I've got to go to this thing. And can you change my schedule? And it safe, sound, dependable. Dependable to me, is a huge part of this. Safe for sure. You don't want them being discriminatory. You don't want them being inflammatory. You don't want all these ORI things. You don't want that. But the dependable to me is key because it allows you to continue to manage your business without having to manage them. We used to say, when your name is on a schedule, it's in stone.
that's right.
I mean, that's it.
That is right.
You're on it. You're expected to be there, period. That was one of the ways that we tried to manage that safe, sound, dependable. Some people couldn't do that. It's almost a luxury to be able to commit to a date, a couple months in advance.
Yeah. And for some people that's difficult. So
Difficult.
it's very important. Dependability is very important.
Yeah. What's this adaptability? Why is that on your list here? It's number 2. Why is that?
I think adaptability is important because we're always changing and looking at ways to improve our student experience, how we engage, how we get higher success rate and completion, student satisfaction. So open to trying new things. I think that's really important, in a live online environment. Technology is changing faster than we can stay abreast of. So you have to be adaptable, flexible, and you have to be willing to try to do things differently than you've done them in the past. I think that's very important.
Yeah, I agree, especially as we move into more and more technology-driven delivery of live online. I mean, being able to adapt. I'll tell you, when COVID hit, we lost a pile of brilliant in-person instructors. They just couldn't adapt to the live online environment. They couldn't adapt to the technology.
Right.
I mean, and they were brilliant. I would put them up. I know we got a lot of really talented people on here and we got a lot of really good school. I would put, the three that we lost, I would put them up against anybody. And I had this to be like The Voice or America's Got Talent or, Idol. I'd put them up against anybody. And we lost them because they just wanted to do in person. And that was hard. So flexibility and the ability to adapt. And then also, I think, ability to adapt to new training techniques and methods that keep improving as we go. I think that's a big part of it. Coachable. What do they mean by coachable? Is that a part of adaptable or is that a little different than adaptable?
I think they go hand in hand, but by coachable, the ability to take feedback and put that feedback to work. It's one thing to hear the feedback, and sometimes people aren't open or receptive. So I think we always look for instructors that are open and receptive and coachable, and they can accept that feedback, take that feedback, and make improvements to help them be a better instructor.
Coolest thing you do in live education is you get immediate feedback from a course evaluation. If you're not doing course evaluations, everybody, but it's evaluating kind of the student experience and the instructor. And if you have a team of instructors, if it's not evaluating all those instructors so they can see how they compare to each other, you're missing the greatest opportunity of live instruction, which is immediate feedback.
Right.
You don't even have to tell somebody what they need to fix. You just let them read the comments from the students, right? And the students will fix it. And here's the easy thing. If they don't fix it, you say, listen, this is what our students need. This is what the school needs you to do. And if you can't do that, you can't work here anymore. I mean, there's also some empowerment about getting rid of bad talent too, right?
Oh, sure. It helps make that decision a little bit easier for you. But just like there's, feedback that's less than positive, it's also just important to take that really positive feedback and share that with the instructors so they know how valued they are and how important they are to your organization, because they are the face of your company. And so they need to feel that they're empowered and that they have all the resources and the support to go out and deliver a phenomenal experience for your customers.
Yeah, that smiling face that people come.
Absolutely.
I had a very, very interesting mentor when I first got into business, very successful business here in Minnesota that I got into with them. And he said, give me one really interesting thing. And it was, listen, if when you're looking for talent, there's one key thing about live talent, which is you want people to want to be like the person they're watching. If they can't sit in the crowd and they can't sit in the education and try to connect with that live instructor saying, I really want to be like that. This is awesome. This person is powerful. This person is knowledgeable. This person is articulate. If they can't see themselves, right, wanting to be like that person, even just a little bit more, you lose them in-person and live education, even live online to these days, I would say. So there was a really interesting aspect to kind of his purview into what was important when they're representing your company on stage. And
that makes sense.
Yeah. Nurturing is an interesting one. What do you mean by nurturing? Like, do you have to nurture them or they're nurturing to the students? What are you talking about here?
I think it's both. I think you nurture your instructors and build them up and help them be the best version of themselves they can be. But I think nurturing is very important for your customers, especially in a live online environment. Many of your customers have been out of school and they're apprehensive, to get back into education. And if you're delivering it live online, for some, that's a new experience they've never done. Yes, we're in the world of Zoom and it's very common, but there are still people that in an educational environment, it's uncomfortable or they feel apprehensive. And so instructors, when they nurture and guide and support the students, they're more likely to come back to class, to stay engaged, to stay on top of their studies, to have higher completion rates, and to ask for help, seeking support from their instructors. And if your instructor's not nurturing or not approachable, it makes it very difficult for the student to connect.
Super interesting topic, because I do see that. I see those instructors who are evaluated higher are literally nurturers. They're like I know this is going to sound weird, but like mother hens where they pull all the little ducks in and they're taking care of everybody. And I don't know if that's because of a lot of what we do is live online. So I don't know if it's because of the live online environment or if it's because of the student has changed and the student needs more nurturing. As before, you kind of wowed them in the classroom, right? Like, listen to my story. I'm going to tell you how it's done. You sit down, shut up. I'm talking, you're listening. Here it goes. But we're finding nurturing as a positive, real positive.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Okay.
It makes a big difference.
Interesting. All right. Teaching. What are the qualities and attributes you're looking for? How about this one? This one's about money, right? Teaching for the reasons other than just money. What do you mean by that?
Yeah, I think when you look for an instructor, they have to be invested in their craft and it's more than a paycheck. They're looking to give back to their profession. You know, they want to make a difference, leading the next generation of licensees to be better, you know, to have a stronger foundation. I think all of that is extremely important. And if you're just looking for a paycheck, I don't think that instructor is going to stay with you long.
Interesting. I wholeheartedly agree. Now, I used to tell people, in fact, when I recruited instructors, I said, listen, I don't have anybody working here for the money. I have people who are working for all different reasons. They want to get back to the industry. They want to be on the stage. They want to learn the education so that they can actually practice it in their business. They want to work on their public speaking skills. I had all different reasons other than just the money. I did have a couple just for the money. And those were some really high performers and they were a lot to manage and handle. But generally, I said, I don't have anybody here working for the money. Well, why do you want to work here? I would ask that question in the very first interview with people, because the experience is just like you. If it's just about the money, it doesn't seem to translate to the students with most instructors, nearly all instructors. Some superstar, rare caliber, different people, they can pull it off, and it is about the money. But for most, it's not. When it's not about the money, it seems to be a better fit and experience.
I couldn't agree more.
Yeah. All right, let's move on to the next one. Methods to use when recruiting instructors. Well, how do you recruit them? How do you find them? Where do you go? But I mean, I got the whole list up here. Let's just work
Yeah,
down them
sure.
because I think there's a couple little nuggets in here that everybody's going to get something out of.
Sure. Well, obviously, word of mouth. Some of our best instructors come from recommendations of other instructors and networking. You know, you go to events and you meet someone and you see a skill that you think would translate well into a classroom or a live online environment. So networking and getting information from other instructors about potential candidates, I think, is always a gold mine of getting talent. And then there's always the usual LinkedIn, Indeed. You know, we always post, and you do get people that apply, but sometimes, you know, the skill set doesn't match up with what you're looking
There's a
for.
little more of a shotgun approach there, right? I mean, you're just doing a wide pattern, seeing what
Yeah.
comes in. But I think one of the things that I talk about regularly with Christina and staff is, I got a secret for you. We're always recruiting,
That's right.
always. It's a part of managing a crew of instructors is always recruiting. Why are you always recruiting? You got a great team. Well, I always recruit so that I can manage a great team,
Right.
right?
Yeah.
Because when you recruit new people in, you get people that are ahead of them that turn around and look and go, well, who's behind me to replace me? So there's a management feature to this. And people come and stay with your organization. They might come together with your organization and then they may peel off and do something else, do their own thing. What happens if it's one of your superstars and you got nobody to back them up? You've got no resiliency in your teaching staff. We used to say that you've got, we break the staff into thirds. You got your top performers, absolute top performers. You got your middle where people are moving up or they're moving down in your organization. And then you've got the bottom, which is really just about the feeding of new people in. And so when looking at those in third, it doesn't hurt to have some young rising superstars in your middle third pushing some of your existing superstars, because it gets a little harder sometimes for existing superstars to say, you know what, I need more money. And if it's about the money, you say, well, gosh, you know what? I got some other talent that it can take your spot if that's the deal. And or if they flake out, or if they go to a different path, you've always got to have people. I always say, what do I tell you, Christina? I said, your management issues go away the more good instructors you have coming into
That's
the
right.
field, right?
Yeah. Yeah. A deep talent pool is huge, because if you don't have one, it limits what you can do. You handicap yourself at times. So always recruiting, always looking for fresh talent, which also helps drive better instructors into your pool.
Better instructors, better experience, right?
Right.
Awesome. Awesome. What about I see this course evaluations, CE course evaluations. What are you doing there?
Absolutely. We use evaluations to help recruit. We ask, do you think you have what it takes to be an instructor for
Put a line
us?
on the evaluation at the bottom of the evaluation.
Absolutely.
Are you
And we've
interested?
we've
Yeah,
gotten some great talent from that. Some of our best talent has come from that type of recruitment. So
absolutely.
it does work.
Absolutely. What about this? This is kind of the newest edition, forums.
Right.
Tell us about that.
Yeah, community forums. It's a way to connect with your students. Not only connect with your students who are going through licensing education, but it's also a way to connect with people in the industry who are professionals and who bring expertise and value. And you can use a forum to recruit as well. You can use a public forum, you can use your student community. Either one is an option. But we think that it's a great way to get excitement and draw interest.
I have done it too. I've gone out to forums, to other public forums, and looked for experts answering questions. One of the forums, one of my favorite forums, I know this is a little nugget for everybody, but if you're into real estate investment, forum is called Bigger Pockets. I don't know even any of the owners there, but I use it personally. It's called Bigger Pockets. They have a wonderful forum and a lot of experts on it. So when I needed people about short-term rentals and knowledge in that, I was able to find experts there. That's a great place. So even having your own forum or going to somebody else's forum to find somebody who's an expert. Right?
Absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah, right on. All right. Instructor training and development. We're coming into the near the end, everybody. We're gonna wrap this up in the next 5 minutes, but talk about this. There's different type of instructor training and development. How much do you do? I mean, how much are you willing to take on? I remember the time when we used to say, you know what, we can't take you from a lump of coal and turn you into a diamond, but we can take a diamond in the rough and knock the edges off and really help you kind of get a start. Where are you at on instructor training and development? What should people
It's
be thinking about?
it's continuous. It never ends. That's I think the most important takeaway. Obviously, before you go into the classroom, you want your instructors as prepared as possible to understand the content inside and out and have practiced and spent time with it, gone through the course as a student. There's no better way to understand the product than by going through it as a student yourself. So we like our instructors to also go through the training as if they're a student before we even put them in the classroom. Um, that I feel is huge. So you get
Yeah.
a good understanding of what you're teaching and how your students are viewing that information and how you can connect the dots for them.
And then after they teach, we've talked a little bit about this. This is using the evaluations as a teaching tool, right?
That's right. Right. It's an opportunity to provide praise for a job well done. And it's also an opportunity to provide coaching opportunities, things that they could improve upon, putting them maybe with a mentor, another instructor who's really strong in that area and helping
Yeah.
coach them up. Those are all really important parts.
Even
And
having
you
them
learn
observe, right? And observe.
absolutely.
Yes.
That's part of the initial training as well, observation of an experienced instructor delivering that
Cool.
education.
And then ongoing training and development. I mean, what do you look for there? What are the opportunities? Is it like, there's a change in the material, so we have to get training on material, or are you thinking about skills training?
I think it's both. I think it's change in material, maybe expanding their repertoire of what they taught. Maybe they started teaching continuing education and now we're going to move them into licensing, or vice versa.
Sure.
Maybe they're going to learn the product in another state. They're going to become a subject matter expert in another state. I think that's all part of continuous training. And technology is always changing, so we have to keep our instructors up to date on technology so that they can go in and
Yeah.
deliver a polished experience in an online environment.
Yeah, I think that's a really key point about technology and its application. Nothing will destroy a live online class more than
Faster.
than the instructor not knowing what they're doing. So
Absolutely.
make sure they are proficient in that before they go into a live class. In fact, we even have like ride along, like co-partners in the first couple times they go to teach.
Right.
One of the questions came up. Who can I speak to in regards to figuring out how much to pay my instructors? You probably got to figure that out on your own. But the funny thing is most instructors who teach somewhere or have taught somewhere, they'll always tell you how much they got paid. Especially if one time they got paid a lot of money per hour. And here's what I tell you, Carl. You know what? Once again, when you're recruiting, if it's about money and they're only there for the money, you might want to look for different attributes from instructors that want to do it for different reasons. But generally, you got to look at what your model is, what your business is, what are you charging for your classes, what are your expenses, and I can give you this note. We generally look for instruction to not be more than 15 to 16% of revenue. So if you want a target number to shoot for, if you're making $100, you don't want more than $16 of that going towards instructor costs. You kind of gotta wrap everything in there. Like if you paid for any training and you did all that kind of stuff, but generally a safe number is 15, 16%. If you're paying 50%, you've got a totally different business model than what I'm used to. And maybe you do. Maybe you're doing big events and you're like, I'm bringing in a big name and I'm going to spend 50%. But each business owner's got to figure out what they're looking for when it comes to instructor pay. Yeah, cool. Thanks, Carl. All right, let's do this. Tips to retain your top talent, and then we're going to close it out. How do you retain them? Because for many of them, they get into it, they like it, they want to do more, they're looking for bigger opportunity, and then ultimately, everybody at some point says, "I do need a little more money," right? So, how do you
Absolutely.
retain your top talent?
I think that one of the first ways is more teaching opportunities. Like we discussed, it could be that you're a licensing instructor and then you develop a CE course, or the CE course comes along that we feel is a good fit for you. And so that you start teaching continuing education. That's one way to increase and retain your top talent so they feel valued and they're given more opportunities to be successful in the classroom.
Yeah. Yeah, right on. They get to expand their repertoire, right? They get more
Absolutely.
hours because they're teaching more topics,
Right.
CE, licensing, different states, different disciplines, things like that, right?
Absolutely.
What about non-teaching opportunities? What are you thinking there?
Sure. Well, one of the great things that I like to do is when we have some of our top talent and we see some skill sets that we really would like other instructors to be able to emulate and grab, we look for mentoring and coaching opportunities to
Let
support
them
other
do some training.
instructors.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
right
Let
on.
train the trainer, so to speak.
Right on. Right on.
Yeah,
Well, I love that. I think there's even other non-teaching opportunities. Like, what if they're really good at writing content, right? I mean, not
right,
believe me, the instructor that is also really good at writing, kind of a rare bird, but
right.
there are some. There are
Yes.
some, right?
Yeah, they don't always go hand in hand, but you do come across that golden
Yeah.
nugget occasionally and you grab onto it. But yeah, that continuing the ability to create content is huge, and it's another avenue that a lot of our instructors really enjoy. It's something different, but they do enjoy it.
Yeah, right on. What about regularly scheduled connects with managers? That just mean like just making sure you're connecting on a regular basis. They feel a part of what you're doing and they're informed, right?
Absolutely. So they feel part of your team.
Yeah,
I think
right
that's
on.
important. Teamwork.
What about additional training, like outside of your organization? I see here like CDEI, right? Certified Distance Education Instructor, which is a RIA designation. Thinking about other bits that actually add skill and add clout to them.
Right,
Uh,
exactly. And help improve. And, distance education is a big model. It continues to grow. So
yeah,
things like getting your CDEI just helps you become a better professional and deliver a better experience for your customer.
right on. And then recognition, I think who doesn't like a slap on pat on the back, right?
Absolutely. And they all deserve it. Instructing is a difficult job, and recognition is extremely important.
Yeah.
They feel appreciated.
Got it. And then lastly, and I see that is lastly on the list, is pay increase. Is there, what, I mean, you do pay increases, right?
We do. Of course we do. You have to. I mean, sometimes to retain that top talent, you know, you have to be in line with what the market's paying. But pay increases is a part of it. But like we said, we look for other attributes beside just the desire to earn a paycheck. There's other things that we look for that we feel creates a better experience for the instructor and the student.
The one thing I've always known about pay increases is I've done it both ways. One way where the person comes to you and says, I need more money or I got to go. And the other one is where I come to them and say, you know what, we want to pay you more because you're bringing a lot of value to what we're doing. And we see, you know, these opportunities, blah, blah, blah. I've always had better luck with that second way, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yes, when you're ahead of it and you're recognizing the talent and rewarding that talent, they feel that value, they're more likely to stay and you'll be able to retain that talent.
Got it. That has been my impression too. I mean, there is don't get me wrong. There, in fact, you got some of the regular offenders who are like every year they're coming for something, and every 6 months they're coming for something, and maybe they're not there for all the right reasons, but getting ahead of it has a way to bring a sense of loyalty to your organization too with that instructor. Has been my experience, where people feel like they are appreciated and they didn't have to come to you. And so if you know what's going to happen, sometimes my suggestion would be get ahead of it and then see the benefit from what happens because of that. So, Christina, we have reached the end. I'd like to say thank you for coming and being a part of this and sharing your wisdom and insights, and the fact that you've been at Kaplan longer than me. Very interesting.
Thank you for having me. It's been
Absolutely.
fun.
And then for everybody, remember, Dearborn, we have the catalog here. We have our website. If you need courses, books, ebooks, come on in, get all your ideas. If you need online courses with RE Campus, please go ahead and check us out at dearborn.com, and know that we're here to help you be a better school, a better instructor, a better administrator. And we'll do everything we can to help you. Thanks again.
Thank you.